All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Checkered Roots. Thank you for joining us wherever you may be. First things first, I am sick, so you're going to hear me sound nasally. Might see an odd cut or two if I start sneezing uncontrollably or something like that. But we're going to get through it because tonight's an episode that I've really looked forward to. We've been trying to set it up for a little while. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that our guest tonight's doing a lot of really cool things within the racing community and just in life in general, and I think he stands for a lot of great things. So I'm excited to have him sit down, share a story with us. So without further ado, let's get him in here, Mr. Justin Dorr. And Justin, sir, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Just finishing up the season and excited to see where this off season goes and leading into the next season. And fingers crossed, we'll get everything with sponsor and everything lined out probably in the next couple months.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm learning quickly that the sponsorship stuff and the preparation for the upcoming season. I mean, obviously this will be my first season trying to get going, but that starts like sometimes before the previous season even ends because there's just so much that goes into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've always been pretty fortunate with sponsors, but I think that comes down to, like you said, the preparation. And then just making sure that whenever I go talk to somebody, I have everything to be able to sell myself and leave them feeling like they needed to be on the car.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was one of our former guests, Nate Greenaway. He's up in Canada. He's really good with that sponsor stuff, and so I've been trying to ask him a lot of questions of him and stuff like that. And that's the biggest thing. Like just like what you said, like make it feel like they're missing out if they don't decide to come aboard. Like because you're just you sell yourself well enough, you stand for something that they can get behind. You know, you say what you mean and mean what you say and all that stuff. So no, it sounds like that's exactly what you're trying to get going, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, perfect, dude. Well, let's get into this thing. Let's hear a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, what you race. Just kind of tell us who Justin Dorr is.
Okay, so I'm based out of Southern Oregon. I race mainly at Southern Oregon Speedway. I run an IMCA Sport Modified. I'm a salesman. I work at Kubota, and I also run a company called Repvets apparel. This is actually the website here, and we help raise awareness to PTSD and veteran suicide. And we try to end the 22 veterans that take their life every day. We try to get that number down to zero. And then at the end of the year, we donate a percentage of every order back to helping out veteran nonprofits.
That's fantastic, dude. What branch were you in?
So I was in the U.S. Army. I was
US
active
Army.
duty.
Well, thank you so much for your service, man. I don't want to get too far into this without saying that. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do and what you did, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I have veterans in the family as well, so certainly do appreciate everything you're trying to do for the stigmas.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, awesome. So let's start off with a little bit about the racing. So you race sport mods. You're in Oregon. Coming off of active duty, what made you decide, you know what, I'm going to go strap myself into a race car and I'm going to see where this takes me?
Well, I grew up actually. I grew up in Maine. That's originally where I'm from. So everything out there is asphalt. We don't have a dirt track around that area. So when I grew up, I always wanted to race a race car. I used to we'd go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we traveled down into New Hampshire, Vermont, catch races down there. And got in the service and never thought it was going to happen where I was going to be able to get a car. Quickly got out of it. Well, once I got out of the service, I found a racetrack around here, which happened to be Southern Oregon Speedway. And actually my teammate, one of my buddies, Joby, actually talked me into getting a race car, but it all stemmed from him messaging me about a sponsorship for his car. So it's kind of like a roundabout way, but there was a car that came available for sale. I created TikTok. My wife made the mistake of telling me all the funds I made from TikTok, I could get a race car. And within 2 months, I had a race car.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, what more could you ask for than that? The wife basically gave you permission for a race car. That most of us don't get that luxury.
That is very true. And yeah, she kind of realized real quickly that she messed up when she told me all the funds I get can go
Right.
directly towards that.
Right? Absolutely. So being from Maine, what made you settle down in Oregon? Like why did you decide to go from east to west?
Well, I was being in the military. I ran into one of my buddies, one of my best friends, and I didn't want to go back to Maine and be a lumberjack or a lobsterman, or you join the military. That's the only real jobs out there that you end up doing. So he was like, "Hey, you want to settle down somewhere else?" He's like, "You should come out to Oregon," and I was like, "Sure, dude." So I came out to Oregon. He quickly actually left. About 2 weeks later, we went to Texas. So I met my wife. We played flag football together. That's how I met her. And then started our family and got married and started this adventure with racing. So,
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you said you always had the interest into racing. It sounds like, from being a kid, and you're a lot like me where dirt racing was foreign to me really until this last April. But in Colorado, we didn't have, that's where I'm originally from, is Colorado, but at least didn't know of any dirt tracks around. I knew of one like local racetrack, that's Colorado National Speedway. We lived not too far from it. We'd go up there once in a while, but then moving to Missouri, dirt racing. I mean, there's like 9 dirt tracks within like an hour and a half, 2 hours of me down here. So it's been a big adjustment. But I have to ask, were you excited at the opportunity to get to go dirt racing, or were you always kind of being pulled towards wanting to go asphalt racing?
so naturally growing up around asphalt, and I helped my buddy TJ way back when on his super late model. I always loved the super late model, the way they looked, the way they sound. Um, and when I got stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, I accidentally stumbled on a dirt car on a Saturday going back towards, had to go to a racetrack, is what I told myself. So obviously, Saturday, race day, I turned around and I followed it. Didn't know where the hell we were going. And we ended up going about 15 minutes, I guess it'd be west into Alabama. And we went to East Alabama Motor Speedway, which is a very prestigious track. So the first dirt track race I ever saw was actually a World of Outlaws race,
Oh shit.
and I had no idea who they were or anything. So that was pretty cool. And then dirt track kind of became part of the way of life.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean in that, because that's kind of similar. I've heard about dirt track racing. Some of my buddies on iRacing really liked dirt track racing. They were always talking about it, always saying how, oh, it's the best, it's best, it's best. So I remember there was a test and tune coming up, because it was still, I mean, it was in the winter when I finally discovered what dirt racing was. But so when this test and tune came up, I went out, watched the test and tune, and I was just floored by how these cars looked and how they drove and like all this stuff. Like, it was against everything that I had known in racing. But that was obviously the day that I kind of fell in love with it and got bit pretty bad by the bug for dirt racing. And so yeah, here we are, man. So here we are now.
And now you have a car of your own.
Yeah, yeah, I got a pile of parts that I'm hoping looks like a car here at some point, but yeah, we're getting there. No, that's awesome, man. So then tell me a little bit about what's your racing journey been like so far? What's been the ups, the downs, the ins and outs? Kind of how's it been going?
So I've only been doing this for 3 years now. This is my third season. We just finished up. My first season, let's just say I was always told, basically just ensure you stay out of everybody's way and slowly learn. Don't drive over your head. I had a lot of veteran drivers both in the asphalt world and the dirt world said that. So I kind of struggled finding speed and stuff, but I never got in anybody's way. My rookie season, shoot, I still remember the first time I passed somebody. But one of the biggest accomplishments I made, and I always made like little goals. My one of my goals was don't get lapped. So I went out there, and luckily, actually, I never got lapped. I was just fast enough to not get lapped. I was pretty happy about that. Then obviously, once you can find a little bit more speed and some more control, pass somebody, not finish last. Things like that. So that was kind of the story of my rookie season. Towards actually no, it was the beginning of my second season. I had the same car. It was a 2012 Shaw. Me and my buddy went through the entire thing, and I had electrical issues at the beginning. So that was hard. That was a learning curve. Luckily, we went through the entire car. We looked over and over for the first, I don't know, 3-4 races, I think it was. And it ended up being a ignition module that just wasn't plugged in all the way.
Oh, dude.
So threw a bunch of money at it. That didn't fix it. And we ended up actually having a really good rest of the season. And we finished fifth in points my second year.
Wow.
And this season was actually really good. Got a 2021 Shaw from one of my buddies. Put it together. Got a brand new motor. Everything on the car was brand new. So I try to take pride in my stuff and ensure that, one, safety. My wife always preaches to me, safety, no matter what, never skimp on it. So did get the new car. I had a very good season. Found a lot more speed this year than where I was last year. And we ended up actually wrapping up second in the championship. So that was pretty cool to do on my third season.
Yeah, that's quite the feat, man. I mean, that's not this stuff isn't easy. You know, I've only done 5 hot laps after the races one night just by myself on the track, but I think it's really easy for people to sit back in the stands or to watch it on TV or, you know, and say, "Oh, I could do that." But it's not. This is not easy. And I can tell you just me alone on the track, I was not fast at all. So you throw 8, 10, 12 other cars out there, I'm sure it's probably intimidating for a little bit. And then what I kind of told myself I want to do, and someone gave me this advice, and I really agree with it, is I'm going to race myself for the first season or until I get comfortable. So if I'm turning an 18-second lap time, next week I'm going to shoot for a 17.8 or 17.5, and I don't care if I get lapped or whatever happens. I want to be marginally better each week, whatever that might be. So, but no, dude,
So
second place in 3 seasons is fantastic.
yeah, there's out here at Southern Oregon Speedway, the competition is insane. So I mean, if you've ever been out here, if you ever do come out here, there's a lot of really fast guys out here, both in the modifieds and the sport modifieds. So yeah, to me, that was a really good personal victory. We'll call it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then what's the next set of goals then? Racing related. We'll get into the other stuff later, but what's the next racing related goals for you?
I got to get a W.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get a win. I know. I mean, I know guys that have raced for years and haven't got a win. So, me personally, I'm a very motivated individual. If somebody says I can't do it or if something's challenging, it just pushes me even more. So, I did get a heat race win. I've got a lot of second and thirds in heat races. My best finish, I believe, was fourth in a main event, fourth or fifth. So yeah, it's time to finally get that first win and that monkey off my back.
Yeah, absolutely. Is is the goal to stay in? Do you want to stay in sport mods for the foreseeable future? Do you want to move to a different class at any point? Kind of what's the thought process there?
So what I want to do is I want to stick in the sport mods probably for the next 2 years. So I'll run next year and then for sure, and then probably the following year in a sport mod. That'll put 5 years underneath my belt, and then move up to probably the A mods. Um, I don't want to be one of those lifers that stay in the sport mod class. Nothing against them; it's their money; they can spend it how they want. I just think that moving up to that premier class definitely is going to teach you a lot. You're going to race against, in some cases, better talent, and the car is going to be more horsepower, faster. So I think in order to grow as a driver, you have to kind of do that. But I'd say at least 2 more years in the sport mod.
Yeah, that's a the thing that I'm challenged with in my own head is I'm ultra competitive, so obviously that, and but I can also be incredibly impatient, right? So one all my buddies race B mods, so I'm gonna be in E mods, economy mods, whatever. I think that sport mods are a lot of the same, but what I'm worried about is that I'm gonna be racing E mods, all my buddies are gonna be racing B mods, and I have to consciously tell myself, don't overstep, don't overstep, don't overstep, because the second I do and I step on it, spin it out in front of the field, now I just junked my stuff, potentially junked a whole bunch of other stuff just because I thought I would be a cool guy and go try to race a class I shouldn't be in.
Yeah. So and that's the thing. I mean, obviously one of the risks that everybody takes. I mean, you can go out there and you can buy a $50,000-$60,000 car, and you can go out there in the first lap and wad it up. There's a lot of money that goes into all these and a lot more time, um, than the normal person, the normal fan will be able to ever realize, because every week you're nutting and bolting the car, you're washing the car, you're ensuring that your sponsors are getting seen, repairing anything that's wrong, servicing the car. So I mean, there's, like you said, if you become impatient or whatnot, you'll learn patience very quick, once you get out there, and if not, then definitely put that on the agenda to learn a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that's when I dove off into this whole adventure that I've kind of set out on to go racing. I had this 2 years in my head, and then 2 years and I was going to get on track. Well, then one thing kind of fell into another, and I got impatient for a very short period of time, and I bought an engine. I was like, sweet, yeah, let's do this. And it was in pieces. And then I was like, oh, it ain't going to be that bad. I'll go back together stock and we'll move on. Well, then another deal falls into place and I get the chassis. And so now I have an engine and I have a chassis. So now it's like, okay, well, which one do I do first? Well, then I partner with RS Customs and I start getting prices and kind of quotes on what it's going to take to get the car running. And patience has become a very thing that I am learning greatly right now, because it's like, damn, dude, that's a lot of money. And it's the sticker shock, and you know that it's expensive, but it's like someone sets down the tab in front of you and you're just like, yep, it's about what I thought it was going to be. I was hoping it was going to be a good surprise, but so yeah, patience is something I am quickly learning with that.
I will say, well, you never can predict when you're going to buy the car, for one.
Right.
Mine fell into my lap too, so I'm on the same page as you. But the biggest thing is whenever you have those opportunities, don't be afraid to take those leaps or those chances. And it sounds like you're headed that direction, so that's pretty cool. So you'll probably be out there sooner than you anticipate.
God, man, I hope so. I hope so, dude. I'm itching and clawing and scratching, and just I'm ready. I'm excited, but also that, like you said, it's the chance you take. Like, there's that little piece in the back of my mind where it's like, okay, putting all this time and all this effort and this money, and I'm gonna build this car, put every bolt together on it. And I'm excited. I'm taking a lot of pride in my stuff. I know some people, like you said, some people don't. I do. Yeah. I want it to look good. I want to be able to sell it to somebody and say, hey, you want to be looking, I take good care of this. I could bomb off into turn one, and that could be my racing story for a few weeks. So that's it's nerve-wracking but exciting.
I will tell you this. So one thing I learned is these cars can take abuse. When I was a rookie, everybody, they were like, listen, guys, it's not a show car, it's a race car. And I'm like, yeah, no, I understand. I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, stay out of everybody's way. This stuff's expensive. So actually, my first wreck, my car was like mint. The leader actually spun during a heat race in front of the pole. I won't throw out any names, rider, but he spun out, collected me and collected my buddy Joby, and every single panel on the car was actually dented, or bent in some sort of way. So we pounded it flat, and that's one thing that you'll learn is it'll pound out and it'll be just fine. But after that, as soon as that first one was out of the way, I started finding speed. Yeah. So just remember, they can take abuse. You can pound them straight, and don't be afraid to push yourself a little bit. If you're comfortable, push yourself a little bit harder the next time.
Sure. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, I don't want to switch gears super hard on you here, but I'd be remiss if we didn't get into it and talk about it for a little bit here. But we talked a little bit about recording, about all the stuff you're doing, with social media, with your company, and what you're kind of standing for with all of that. Why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit more about all of that?
So as far as like Repvets, my company?
Yeah. So all the Repvets, the flag above your computer. Let's kind of get into all that stuff.
Okay. So Repvets apparel, I created that in 2018. I wanted to make a difference. I got tired of seeing my buddies struggle and ultimately some of them becoming one of the 22 veterans that we lose every day to their own hand. So I wanted to create something that was going to be able to, one, give back, and then two, raise awareness to those issues. So one day I was sitting in the gym, and I was thinking everybody needs to have apparel. So a lot of veterans create apparel companies, and I was going to create one that had a mission with it. So created the company. We've actually been blessed enough to literally ship it all over the world. We are a small business. I do everything in house. I print, press, peel, create, design, ship, everything myself. My wife does help me as well whenever we're overrun with orders. But we've made it as far as Australia, all over Europe, all over Canada, all 50 states. Um, and there's actually a pretty funny story of how the 50 state thing happened. I made a post that said free sticker if you comment where you're from and send me your address. I think we sent 250 decals. So I
Yeah.
went from 12 states to 50 states and then Canada within like 12 hours. So that
Wow.
was that was interesting. That was self-inflicted, but
Right.
that was really cool to be able to do. And then, um, like I said earlier, my racing journey, I was blessed enough because I came up with the idea um, I started TikTok, and I'll kind of actually backtrack a little bit. So, one of my buddies that I met on TikTok told me, because I had initially just the Repvets page, and it wasn't doing very good at that time, and he told me to create a alter ego. So some of y'all might be watching this and know about this Delta Dan character, or maybe came across it on TikTok. But anyways, I created that to be able to raise awareness and bring people to my website, so that way we could ultimately help people. Um, and that grew quite a bit of following between both the Repvets social media platform and the Delta Dam platform.
Yeah, it's always kind of crazy with social media. Um, my wife's had, successes with it. I've always been horrendously bad at it. So that's why it's really ironic that I have a podcast now and that I post on social media, because I've always been a person who posts like once every 3 years. But I I had like 10 or 15 followers at the time, and I made this, hey, my name's Alex. I want to drive race cars. I'm just gonna post videos just to see if anybody cares. If not, I don't care. I'm gonna show my kids someday. And then, obviously I make the poster. I was like, hey, I want to interview people, and then wake up the next morning with 130 message requests. And I'm like, well, guess we got a podcast now. So it's kind of funny how you can stumble into that. But I've been following the Delta Dan stuff, ever since well, obviously since I came across you and talked to what was his name out in Oregon as well. I'm sorry.
Zach Nelson, I
That's
believe you
right,
talked
Zach
to.
Nelson. Yes, sir, Zach Nelson, great dude. After I talked to him, I kind of looked into your page a little bit more, and I think that yes, the content that you have on there's a lot of the funny content and stuff like that, but then there's also the uplifting and the like, hey, you're not alone stuff, and I think that a lot of us can resonate with that. Not just veterans, but people going through everyday life and struggles, man. So it's really cool to be able to obviously sit down here and talk to you and tell you thank you, because I can resonate with some of that stuff too. But it's really cool to see what you're doing and how you can make that impact, and I love what you're standing for and all that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we've been blessed. We've had the opportunity to probably help, if I had to take a guess, probably over 1,000 people that I've single-handedly sat down, or not sat down, but had conversations on the phone, through text messages, TikTok messages. I've had people message me telling me that I saved them, and I never even had a conversation with those individuals, and maybe it was just a video that I posted that day, just letting them know that they're not alone. So um, it's really rewarding. It makes you feel good. I'm always told that I'm doing God's work, and I 100% believe that. No matter what somebody's faith is, everybody has feelings, and everybody's got, um, maybe they need to have somebody to talk to that day. So that's what I'm there for.
Yeah, and everybody needs that. And I think that it's probably maybe it's part of it for some people, but not knowing you, or not personally knowing you, or just having someone who doesn't have the biases of knowing the other half of the story, and just someone that you can just unload on. I think everybody needs that every once in a while. I've been there, I've needed that. Just, I don't want anybody else's opinions. I just want you to sit there and listen. Let me get this out. And I appreciate you sitting there talking to me. I just needed to get that out, and I feel better now. So it sounds like that's what you're there for, man. And that's awesome. Where can people, obviously the Delta Dan page, but where can people contact you if that's something they're kind of looking for in life?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on the Delta Dan page. Actually on my website on Repvets apparel. If you don't want to talk to myself, I do actually have service links on there to where you could talk to the 988 number. I believe is what it is for the suicide hotline. If you need to absolutely talk to an emergency crew and you cannot get a hold of me, you can talk to them on there. If you need to have help with the VA and you're a veteran, I even have the VA number on there so you guys can contact them. So there's a lot of sources on there. And of course, you can reach out to me anytime. I've got my cell phone number for my business on my website as well. So you can text me, call me, leave me a voicemail, but I will contact you back.
Beautiful. Well, I'll make sure that, all of Justin's stuff is linked in the description below, all the social media, the Reps for Vets website, and all that stuff. Talk to me a little bit. So what's the future look like? We talked about racing, but what's the future for, the apparel company and everything else that you're doing? What's the future outlook on all that?
Fingers crossed that eventually it turns into the point where that's all I'm doing. That'd be nice. Right now, like I said, I work full time. I'm the assistant store manager at a Kubota at Pelican Tractor in Klamath Falls. So if you guys need a tractor, come see me. However, I would like to focus 100% at one point in time with Reps for Vets. That way I can continue to help people and be able to reach out to them. Because sometimes I'll come across videos and, I'll reach out to people. I'll send them messages. And I just feel that if I had more time to where I could do that, if I could put a 40-hour week into that instead of the 8 hours I can put, I just feel like I could make the world a better place, make it a little bit easier for people and just kind of give them that motivation, maybe give them that little bit of a push to where, they'll chase their dreams.
Sure. Is there any other ways, we talked a little bit about the 22 is, your number's 22 because of the 22 vets that we lose a day to, self-inflicted. But is there any other way that you have been able to kind of intertwine your racing life and the Reps for Vets and stuff like that, of trying to give people that opportunity, of here's another escape that, this can maybe help you and stuff like that?
We have. So my buddy Joby, I talked about him a little bit earlier. He's actually a Marine veteran. I was in the Army, and we created Reps for Vets Racing. So R4V Racing, we have decals and hats and stuff like that. But what we tried to do is we tried to basically, if you're a veteran and you're in the local area, it's just a small little thing that we're doing, but we'll pay your pit pass. We'll pay for your dinner that night. We just want to have you come out, have a good time, and use dirt track racing as an outlet. You can help work on the cars. We'll teach you what to do. So no skill set all the way up to being a crew chief. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's get you out there and use that as an outlet. And then future plans for that would be nice if that was to turn into an organization of some sort, and then be able to, if there was funds available, obviously fly in veterans who really would like to be a part of that, and then possibly get other tracks involved, other racers involved. We've sent decals to fellow racers, and they've put them on their cars and talked about us at other tracks. So if we could get as many drivers as we could, get them involved, and get veterans in the local community involved, even at their local level, as an outlet, I just think that would be something that would be cool to do and will continue to do.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't see how that couldn't eventually blow up into something, man. I mean, it's in these conversations and in some of the stories that I've heard up to this point, and just for everybody out there, if you don't have an in to a racetrack or something like that, or you don't know someone in the racing community as a whole, I'm telling you, the amount of times I have heard racing has saved me from talking with racers or talking just with people around the community. I mean, it is staggering of how much of an outlet this can really be. And if you don't have any access to any local tracks, I'm talking to everybody out there, if you don't have that access and you don't know a driver or something, just start reaching out, or buy a pit pass one night and go talk to. I promise you, there are always going to be bad apples in the tree, but I promise you that the racing community will open their arms to you if you're just like, dude, I just want to learn about this. That's how I got started into it. you will find your group of people. You will find that this is the most welcoming community you can be a part of. Justin, I'm sure you see it all the time with everything that you're doing, but it's a addictive but perfect outlet, and it's a huge family. Some of the family that you always wanted, some that you never asked for, but it's a huge community. So I would encourage anybody out there, if you ever wanted to get into it, don't hesitate, just go.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So you know, I went in completely as a lone wolf, not from this area. Um, Bought a car. I was the social media Delta Dan guy, and a lot of people already knew about Delta Dan when I started racing. And I'm sure I was probably the brunt of some jokes, but I just kept pushing, kept doing what I was doing, and I feel like I've earned the respect of most everybody in the pits, if not all, everybody in the pits. And I think that stems from just being nice. If they need something, I would be there for them. Not be afraid to go ask questions. I mean, people come over to my pit just to hang out. I go over to theirs just to hang out. I make sure. Now, actually, here's a little side note. I've been around, like I said, for 2 seasons, and I'm actually on the board now for Southern Oregon Speedway. So I'm part of the board members for the racetrack now. So being a racer and being on the board, I won't lie, that's kind of a tough gig, just because sometimes you want this, but the board needs to have this in order to have the track be more successful. So going around talking to fellow racers, actually taking their input and bringing it to the table, essentially, I think has also opened up a different level of respect between drivers. But like you said, it's a family. It really is. So don't ever be afraid to get a pit pass. Even if you don't know anybody, just go through the pits. Go say hi. Introduce yourself. I guarantee you could probably find your way onto a team changing tires, whatever it may be.
Yeah, that's exactly what I looked up the local point standings for the local tracks, and I just started sending Facebook messages like, "Hey, my name's Alex. Never done this before. I can change tire, I can change oil, but dude, I'll wash your tools. I don't care what you need. I will sweep your trailer, wash your tools, come to the shop, whatever you need. I just want to get involved." And there was a lot of no responses, I'm not going to lie. So I would encourage doing it in person. That way you can at least get, some feedback on it, maybe make more of a connection there. But, was lucky enough to get linked up with Adam Dunwoody, and that haven't looked back, man. It's been nothing but welcoming and super informative and wildly addicting.
Absolutely. And you will learn a lot. I've been lucky enough that my buddies are very smart, and they've been doing it for a while. With any car, I'm sure asphalt's the same way, but with dirt cars, there's a million adjustments you can make. There's a million things on that car that you can learn. So it's definitely fun. Just open your ears, close your mouth, and just listen and absorb everything.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, man, that kind of wraps up my questions. But what I'd like to do is, kind of open the floor to you, for the last little bit of something that, didn't come up naturally, or if there's something that, sponsor, or obviously we've talked a lot about your merch, but if you want to touch it in anything more than that, sponsorships, anything, kind of like to say the floor is yours. So, Mr. Justin, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Like I said, we just finished off our 2025 season. And obviously I'm going out looking for new sponsors. So I kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit, and maybe this will help you out a little bit as well. So one thing I will say, we talked about it briefly, is selling yourself with your sponsors. So if you are a racer and you're watching this and you want to have some tips and tricks, I have between 18 and 20 sponsors every single year. And one thing I will tell you is whenever you go there, don't take a no as a no. Okay. Look at it as, one, how can you improve? And two, don't be afraid to ask them. Is it me? Is it the money? Or is it just maybe the wrong time? So ask those hard questions. Maybe they don't want to drop $500 on a sponsor. Maybe $250 will work. Maybe they're afraid to stick their toes in the racing community, and you can explain to them that you're essentially a rolling billboard. And that's how I started. Was just if somebody told me no, that's okay. I'm a salesman. So, I looked at it as, okay, what do I got to do to make it a yes? And then, like I mentioned earlier, leave them feeling like they need to be on your card. And it doesn't matter if it's your rookie year or your 20th year. It does not matter. Um, because what they're buying into is not if you're going to get wins, they're buying into you as a person. And you got to understand that. So that's one really big tip there. And then two, go prepared. Go prepared. I looked up a sponsorship packet one time for racing, and I loosely built mine about it. And I mean, it reads where it's got an about me section, describes a little bit about who I am, being in the service. I've got sponsorship information on there. I've got expectations, and not expectations from the sponsor. This is expectations I'm going to provide for the sponsor.
Sure.
Yes, and that's important. Because if I'm putting out my money, I want to know what I'm going to get in return.
Exactly right.
And then I break down my sponsorship packets. And remember, $50 is better than $0. And when you're starting, that's the biggest thing. And the reason why I preach that is I had a $500 sponsor turn into a $750 sponsor, turn into a $1,200, turn into a $3,500 sponsor. And I'm truly blessed whenever it comes down to sponsors. And I think it's because I've got the gift of gab. I was actually going to put on a little Zoom meeting, and I was going to help provide help to our local track. And if anybody wants to have any help, send me a message. We can sit down and talk about it. I'm okay with that. But I like I was saying, I think that if you're looking for sponsors or you're struggling to get sponsors, I think if you sell yourself, go there prepared. Understand that a no, don't take that as a no. Learn from it. I think that you'll be far better off, and then taking care of your sponsors. Maybe give them back a little bit of something. Like I take 10% of my sponsorship money that I come up with every year, and I provide hats, I provide shirts, I provide decals, a thank you packet. Make sure you put together a thank you letter, add it in your packet, and hand deliver it to them if they're local. If you have to mail it to them, that's okay too. And it also has a schedule in there. And if they can't view it in person, we have Speed Union TV, which streams every one of our races. I provide that website on there so that way they can watch it as well. But like I said, I think just taking care of your sponsors is huge. And that's going to help you in the long run. And then potentially that $100 sponsor could possibly turn into $1,000 sponsor, and make your sponsorships realistic. Not $10,000 for a bronze package and then $20,000. Make it something that you feel could work. And if the first season you're starting off small, that's okay, because that's going to help you get through the season far better than having nothing in your pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what you said at the end of make it realistic. Like at the end of the day, if you're the small town guy who's running it one track and it's not streamed and it's not you're a rolling billboard, but you have to understand the audience that you're appealing to, right? You can't go expect, the mom and pop cafe that's on the corner to want to drop 10 grand on your car to go 3 hours away to race at some track where it's not going to attract business to them. That's where I'm struggling in my head, is because I understand that not everybody thinks race cars are as cool as I am. So trying to figure out how to phrase that and selling myself, not just, hey, do you get to be on a race car? Like, that's cool. Like, that's in my head, that's just where my head goes. But not everybody thinks that way. And it's real money. I mean, this isn't just dollars and cents on a computer. Like, this is real money. This is hard-earned money that these people are investing into you. And it definitely sounds like you do, but I take that very serious. That if you come aboard with me, I'm not going to just take your money and run and say, hey, thanks for the money, now I can buy a seat. Bringing my car to any event that your business puts on, and then trying to engage the community. And obviously a race car is going to be an attractant. If you have something set up outside of a business and there's people around and there's a race car there, it's going to, grown men are more or less the same, where it's going to be like, oh, what is that? Or, little kids want to go climb in the race car and all that stuff. So you can market it. It's just to the right people in the right way and following through on what you say you're going to do.
100%. And that's the biggest thing, is the follow through. To kind of give you a little bit of an idea about my sponsorship, kind of the way I kind of break it down is, I do my bronze, my silver, gold, diamond, and platinum package. And the way the platinum package, which is a 30, it's actually, I dropped it down to $3,000, but it was a $3,500 sponsorship. Came about was I actually picked up a main sponsor that I only had $1,500 on there. That's what I had on there as my premium package. They said, okay, I'm going to give you $3,500. And I was absolutely in shock. And that was my rookie season. But that's where I come in, and kind of some of the stuff that I give them, I give them, a bunch of hats, shirts, decals. I give them a banner that has my race car, and it has their logo, and it says, thank you for your support in, and whatever the season is. I kind of go probably above and beyond what most people do, but that's because, like you said, that's because I care. I want to make sure that they know that they're going to get taken care of. I give them free tickets to come to the races, because I want them to show up, and I want them to hear their name over the loudspeaker when we come out to race. Because how badass is that to show up at a racetrack and hear your company on there when they're announcing your driver? I love that. It gets me pumped up. It gets them pumped up. And that actually, my second season, so not this past season, but the season before, they made it out to the last race, and they had a chance to hear their name at the track. And that was one thing that they said to me. They were like, hey, that was so badass to be able to hear our company's name and then see you go out there and kick ass. So, and I think I finished 5th that race. So
hell yeah,
kudos
dude.
to me. I had a
good way to perform under pressure, right?
Right.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Oh, that's awesome. I think that's great, man. Sponsorships, so it's almost taboo to talk about in a certain respect, and nobody wants to give their secrets, and nobody wants to be like, no, dude, I'm not telling you how I get my stuff. Don't go take my sponsors. But so thank you for opening that up, and being able to talk about that freely. And I know that for me, that's definitely stuff that I need, especially being in the position that I'm in, never doing this, nothing like that. And I know that if I'm sitting here in that same position, luckily I can sit here and actually ask you the questions. I know that there is 155,000 different people just like me sitting there watching or trying to YouTube, how do I find sponsors? How do I do this? And how do I do that? So really, thank you so much for opening up on that, man.
Yeah. And I actually started I call it the mini sponsor. So on TikTok, I had a lot of people that don't have businesses, and you got to kind of think outside the box. So you're already going to get probably a wrap on your race car. The number I have, and I have it on my TikTok, the number I have on my roof, I sell names into that, because not everybody has a business that they can provide a sponsorship logo or whatnot, but they want to have a loved one on there, and obviously being tied with Repvets and Repvets Racing and Delta Dan, I had a lot of people ask me, they're like, I want to be on the car. Can I give you money? And I'm like, dude, I don't know how you can't just give me money. Let me think of something. So I came up with the idea of putting the names inside of the number, and you can see that on my social media. And at first I did $50 a name, because I had no idea, and that's what people started sending. So I was like, okay, well, I dropped it down to $25, and our goal this year is 50 names. I'm already like half full. Now 50 times 25 is $2,500.
Yeah.
So you have $2,500 that could help fund your race team with a simple thing as a mini sponsor to get a group of people that want to support you and might not have a business. So thinking outside of the box in order to provide a sponsorship, and it's almost like you have a piece of them riding with you. So that's another way, excuse me, to get, sponsorship funds, and hopefully fund some of your season too. So take that one to the bank and try to use that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. See, I texted Nate, I think it was 2 days ago, and I was like, hey, I have this idea. And it was actually after on the live where, it was you. You're like, hey man, what's your Venmo? I want to help out in any way I can. And that sparked my thinking. And I was like, maybe there is more. And it's kind of an arrogant thought if you kind of think about it. So I apologize, but like, maybe there's more people who want to support this, but they just don't know how, or they don't know that that's a thing or something like that. So I talked myself out of doing it, but I was going to make something where it's like, hey, I'll put your name on my car, if, whether that's on a sale or if that's on, somewhere where a big sponsor is not going to try to take up or something like that. But to hear that you did that, that's awesome. That it might kind of respark my want to make that post.
So never, like I said, never get discouraged. Thinking outside the box. I've had, and this didn't even really stem from me. It was other people wanting to have something. And I think we had like 40 people,
Wow.
that wanted to do it. And I was like, I got to think of a way to do this. And I was thinking of how I can put it into the wrap. And then I was like, dude, I could just put it in the number.
Yeah.
So the roof number has all the names in there. And like I said, so I would highly encourage you to do something like that, because that's going to help fund things, get you on the track sooner, get their name on the car. So everybody's going to know that they helped you build that car.
Yeah.
That in itself is a huge story. And that's why I asked you for your Venmo, because I want to see you out there. I want to see you succeed. I want to see you live out your dream, because I'm living out mine and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy how that works, right? Like once you start, you want to push more people. You're like, no, dude, you got to do this. No, like you have to try this. So I know it's going to get worse for me. I'm going to eventually start pushing people too and be like, no,
You just wait. You just wait till you get out there with 20 other cars or 19 other cars. It is, I've ridden bulls. I've jumped out of helicopters, combat vet. I chased all the adrenaline, raced dirt bikes, did hard enduro on dirt bikes. Racing a race car is like nothing I've ever done. It's controlled chaos, but I feel completely at peace.
Yeah. Like it's being in the middle of a tornado is the way I've heard it described, and I think that's a wonderful way to describe it.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. And what else do you got? Is that, the floor is still yours, so, any sponsor shout outs you wanna get done, or anything else you got on your mind?
Sure. Yeah, I've got here. I'll give all the sponsors that are coming on board again for 2026 that I've already confirmed with a shout out, and for everybody that was on the car in 2025. Thank you guys so much. I know I reached out to you guys, but I just want to say thank you again. We've got Rockin' 4R. I believe they're going to be back on board. That was actually my main sponsor the last 2 years, so I'm pretty excited about that. Repvets apparel is on there. We've got Basin Tire. Probably the most affordable tire company in Klamath Basin. We've got, I believe, Pop Howard is going to be on board again. We've got Chicken Shack that is going to be a new sponsor that's coming on board. We've got Enhanced Auto Detail. They're voted like best in the basin like 2 years in a row. They're amazing for detailing and ceramic coating and stuff. So they're awesome. Let's see, who else do we have on board? I think Evie might be coming back on board again. She does a lot of like graphic design type stuff. So that's pretty neat. So those are the ones that and I actually have the Oregon National Guard. So shoot for the stars, guys.
What?
I reached out to Mission 22. There was a lady that I was working with, talking to, trying to get Mission 22 on board because we have the same mission. So
Yeah.
she ended up parting ways. She's doing her own thing now, chasing her own dreams. So that's really cool. And her husband reached out to me, and the Oregon National Guard is actually going to be on the car this year. So I'm super excited about that, because that ties in racing, that ties in my military background. The guy is awesome, super nice. Super excited about that one. So that's a big one. I wasn't going to tell anybody about that, but that's
awesome.
a big one. Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Man, that's awesome. Well, brother, thank you again so much, and thank you for putting up with my nasally, sniffly voice that I got going on here. So I'm sorry about that, but don't let that take away from, everybody out there, from, Justin's story and what he stands for and what he does. I was definitely, I'm a super big fan of what you're doing, man. I want to pick up some shirts and support in any way I can, and I love supporting, obviously, the people who come on here and take the time to talk to me. I want to support them in any way I can, but more so, with the veterans, I'd stand fully behind that. Not a veteran myself or anything, but I stand fully behind all that, man. So keep doing what you're doing and keep carrying the torch and keep being that release for people, dude. It's fantastic to see.
Absolutely, dude. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great night.
You too.